little bit of Black Sabbath to cheer me up. Well, good morning. I've got today round 1 of the Lindholme Winter League, and Alex drew all the pegs out yesterday in the live draw, and I've drawn 31 on Laurels, which is definitely not a good peg on paper. Let's see what happens on the day, but it's not a peg I'd run to. It's because the sections are quite big now in the Winter League, so there's going to be pegs in my section that are further down the lake where it's a bit wider, a bit more scope, and where the carp generally hang about in this time of the year. So I want to be realistic about today. It's 9 leagues, it's 9 matches in the league, and you drop your worst 2 results. So if I can get a second or a third from today's peg, I'll be happy with that. If I win it, it'd be an absolute miracle in my opinion. And that's all I'm going to go for, a second and a third. I think sometimes you just got to be realistic with the pegs that you've drawn, rather than trying to push a peg that you know possibly might not hold enough fish for you to win it. You know, just go for what makes sense for that peg strength kind of thing, or potential. So I reckon a second and a third, I'll be really happy with that. Maybe 40, 50 pound, but let's see what happens. tug it.
Winter League winner, which years? Multiple Winter League winner, defending champion.
What's winning the section?
You. What's winning this? £14. You had a nice day.
I've had a really nice day, mate. Really enjoyed it. I'm glad I spoke to Alan this morning because he cheered me up. He did, honestly.
How you caught them?
Soft pellet and micros to the left hand corner.
Oh, and that water. What, £28 there.
More than that. Wait, I'll put them all together. Look nice in picture.
Going to grab next year. You're going round. Maggots or pellets. Nice skimmers. Far off. 46, 14.
That's not weight.
Picture.
Well, that was interesting, and it just goes to show, no matter how well you think you know the venue, every day in fishing is different. As I said in the talk on the way to the match, I didn't really fancy the draw. Peg 31. I'd got like
my section began from peg 17 and it went right round to peg 36, and I had it in the back of my mind that especially peg 36, a great peg at this time of the year in the right area of the lake where carp get caught on a regular basis, and 17, I thought I'm really realistically fishing for second at third at the very best. However, when I got to the peg, it looked really inviting because I can reach the island with a pole, and I've not actually been on this peg before. I've been near it, but I've never been on peg 31. And I also spoke to Alan Scotthorne, who was on the peg a couple of days prior, and he had 40 pound off it, which on that day was a good weight. And he was adamant that I would do well off that peg, even though I was still in the same section as I've said, 17 with pegs 17 and pegs 36. And he was bang right. I had a really nice day's fishing. I started with bread, dobbing bread across. As you could see on the video, I've got a line of the banking in front of me, and I've managed to dob 3 F1s on bread. I've just used a Malman Speedy 4x10, plummeted up to obviously dead depth, and then took 6-inch off. So basically I was just dobbing bread 6-inch off the bottom, and as I've said, the first hour not feeding anything, just moving my rig around, and I've managed to get 3 F1s, which was a steady start, a nice start in my opinion. And then I swapped to micros with a 4mm Dynamite Pro Expander on the hook, a 4x12 rig, spread number 11s, an 010 hook length. Both main line and my hook length line was the Aero Slick Silk, to a size 16 F1 pellet, Guru F1 pellet, which, to be honest with you, I've always used 808s, but I love the F1 pellet. They're loads sharper, lighter, just as strong, and they just work perfectly, especially with a 4mm expander or a bit of corn or a bit of bread. So both rigs, that was the hook I used. And I just had a lovely day's fishing. As bizarre as it sounds, the left-hand corner, which doesn't look as inviting as the right-hand corner, simply because the right-hand side of the peg, I would imagine, would naturally hold more fish because I've got a larger expanse of water to my right, was the worst side. The left-hand side was far better, and I caught nearly all my fish on the left-hand corner. As I've said, just frugally sprinkling a few micros out with a Kinder pot, and then lowering a 4mm soft expander over the top, tight against the island, and that was the only place I caught some fish. And I caught some skimmers, some F1s. I think I might have had a dozen F1s, quite a few skimmers, and I've ended up winning the section with 46 pounds. So I was absolutely over the moon with that. Obviously, because it's the first round of the league, nice to get off and running with a section win. And long may it continue. I think £17 was second in the section, yet my section finished on 36. I've won the section. Peg 38's had £58, and peg 12, these two pegs by the way were in the other section, won the match with £109. So I ended up actually third in the match overall, because it was divided between 4 lakes. There was quite a few anglers there. Yeah, Laurels seemed to produce the best weight out of all the lakes that were in the match. So third in the match and won my section. So happy days, nice start to the league.